Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are. So here in Europe, especially in Portugal, it's afternoon. In the States, early morning, and in Asia, perhaps it may even start the morning. So today, our webinar, welcome to our webinar, and today it will be about Agile is the future of HR. So we have several guests. We'll come back to you shortly to tell you who are our guests. Before that, let me tell you what, if you already got your tickets for Experience Agile conference. So here is a short video clip about the conference. So this is our conference this year. Hope you can join. Also, our guest today will be there talking to you. So 3 conferences in a week: the World Agility Forum, the Agile Human Factors, and Experience Agile. So 3 conferences starting on the 25th of September, and it goes to the 29th. Of course, all these conferences include workshops, and also with your ticket, you can have certified courses that you can see at our website. Also, I would like to remind you that this webinar is organized by the Agile Thinkers, 5 pillars: training, academies, consulting, events, and universities. So we also teach at the universities where we have a huge audience of the future of education. And that's what we also try to achieve by delivering Agile properly and in the right way. Also, this webinar is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz IO and EDP. Both of these organizations will have job opportunities at our website. So please check out our website in a week from now, and you start having several job opportunities in the Agile space. So if you are someone looking for an opportunity or try to foster new opportunities in the Agile space, please see our website for Agile employment, where you can see all that together in one page. So today our panel will be with Vânia Almeida. She's from Bosch. She's the HR business partner, engineering and software, and she's working on the engineering center. Also, welcome to Ana Gonçalves from IKEA, people in culture and delivery manager. Fabiola, already known from most of you from our HR courses. She's Agile HR transformation expert and board and executive and advisor. And also from the Agile Thinkers, Soraia Jamal. She's a psychologist and she's consulting in human factors and organizational behavior. They will be our panel today about is Agile the future of HR? Before we go, feel free to use the Q&A for your questions. So chat is just for us to chat. Q&A, where we will try to moderate all the questions from the audience. This session is being recorded and also will be put on YouTube, so you can see it later. Tomorrow you'll get an email automatically from Zoom with several more details and other things that you might need if you want to register in other webinars. So also, we'd like to tell you one more thing, which is about if you book your seat today for our Agile HR practitioner course with Fabiola. So this is a good time for you to start thinking on that. You have time. It will be online by the 12th and 13th of October, but sometimes seats are going fast. So take care, because this is also a course with the conference. So with the conference ticket, you also get the course registration. So it's a huge opportunity at the reduced price. So upcoming webinars, it will be business agility through agile marketing. It will be June the 1st, and also at July the 1st with Annika Steiber, the author of the Silicon Valley model. So this is pretty much what we wanted to cover for now. And now let's go back to our webinar. So please, I'd like to introduce, if you want to introduce yourselves a little bit more, this is the time. So I will start perhaps with Fabiola.
Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you, Hugo, for having me. My name is Fabiola Eyholzer. I'm the co-founder of Just Leading Solutions. We are based in New York, and we are an Agile HR transformation consultant. And we literally go around the globe to help organizations embrace the future of HR.
Thank you. So, Soraia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Soraia. I'm an organizational psychologist working with the Agile Thinkers in consulting. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Okay, Anna Gonçalves.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from IKEA, delivery manager, and I'm giving the first steps to have a structured approach in our department for Agile and what does it mean for our organization. So it's quite good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, and now Vânia Almeida.
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me. So my name is Vânia. I'm an HR business partner at Bosch Thermotechnology in Aveiro. I am working mainly with software development teams, and we are also starting our journey into Agile.
Okay, so thank you so much for your introductions. So saying this, let's start our webinar perhaps with one of our questions, which is Agile HR, and what is Agile HR and why is it important?
So for me, Agile HR is really a human-centric HR approach, and it's something that boosts our company's abilities to be more responsive and more adaptive in that phase of constant change and disruption. And why it matters is really that our organizations are set up for a world of work that no longer exists. So the world of work has been changing long before COVID. COVID just gave us a further boost into this 21st century way of working. And we need to align what we are doing. We need to align our leadership approach and especially our people and HR approach to help our organizations be and remain successful.
Maybe I can, sorry, Anna.
Go, Vânia.
Maybe I can reinforce this topic that Fabiola mentioned. So as a company which comes traditionally from an industry field and is now currently going more and more into the software development field, this flexibility and adaptation that Fabiola was talking about is really important. And for me, the importance of Agile is to really understand and practice HR in a way that we can support this area of software into our company, and how we can do it best, how we can really strive the potential from everyone working with new methods and new ways of thinking.
And this exactly that. How can we in the HR support the full organization on taking these steps forward, on having a structure, on having this guidance that Agile methodologies can give us, to really look for that transparency, to really become a company where all of the co-workers can give their opinion, and to empower them on being multi-skilled and self-organized teams. So it's really we can meet the different challenges in a quick way, and in having the response to change that we all need. And with COVID, as Fabiola was saying, it's quite visible that it was the boost for the majorities of the companies to start this path.
Okay then, so perhaps Fabiola, so can you tell us about how HR is changing and what are the trends you see that are happening in the companies that you are consulting, and why is it important Agile to be also in that space?
I think the more correct question or answer is what is not changing about HR? You can take any topic within HR, be it about the HR organization itself, be it about any of the HR disciplines, and every and anyone is changing. And Maurice Conti said a couple of years ago, the world of work is changing more in the next 20 years than it has in the past 2000 of years. And when we look at the history of HR, so the term human resources was first used in 1897 by J.R. Cummins. And whether we like it or not, a lot of our thinking, the way that we approach people, the way that we approach leadership, the way that we approach HR is still deeply rooted in that time. So we still think about organizations as a well-oiled machine, like a Swiss clockwork. We don't think about organizations as complex adaptive systems. And the way that we set it up from job descriptions to competency models to talent management and performance management is rooted very much in that time. And we have to break free from that. And you know what's the beauty about HR folks? We know that the world is changing and we have that gut feeling that is telling us there must be a better way out there to do things. And actually, it's really about finding that better way. You know, listen to your gut feeling. If you feel we can do better, then let's do better. And that's what we are seeing across the globe. The companies are realizing the way that we've done it is no longer going to work. And what's really interesting now with the pandemic is what we see is sort of a split between companies. We have some companies who say, hey, this was a disruption, but it's a chance for us. Let's do something about it. And other companies are like, let's just wait, let's just get through this, and then we go back to whatever we've done before. But that's not going to fly. So it's really good to see that companies are taking those steps, that companies are being progressive to change the way that we are doing. And I know that Anna has a lot of great stories to tell for us as well. So maybe Anna, you can tell us what you see from a company perspective.
As you were saying, we are pretty much looking now more for the future than what we have here and now. And I'm really lucky to be in an organization where we have a quite informal space of work. So we all work in an open space, for example, that really foster communication between the different departments and between people. So there is no, of course, there is a hierarchy, but it's not as strong as we can feel in many other different companies. So this is giving us the base to continue the work that it's being done. And to continue this mindset, this agile mindset, where we can really work in small teams, for example, and to give examples of what we are doing. We are really having different forums with different group of peoples with different knowledge. So we have, for example, logistic projects where we are having co-workers from different areas giving different inputs, and also managers from different areas. So we can really have a forum of a really different background where we can take the most of it. Also the leadership approach that we have, we are also trying to be more modern on the way we self-direct our team. So it's really essential, the role of the coworker for its own development. It's no longer something that is coming from the top from the bottom. So it's really an interactive process that we pass, of course, still structure and still with some old, let's say, way of working, but with quite a lot of interaction between the manager and the coworker. We have 360 evaluation, so we can really gather all the inputs from the different stakeholders. So it's really something that we are also taking the steps into it. And also try to make decisions based on facts, because we know that HR, it tends to be an area where we try to skip from numbers, and we are trying to build this culture in all our teams, not only in HR, but also all the other areas of the company, to really have data to take decisions and to prioritize. So we are making all these steps in the different areas.
Fantastic, Anna, fantastic. Because one of the things that we see today as well is, first, a lot of companies want to be agile and they see agile as velocity, and it's nothing to do with that. That's agile from the dictionary. And exactly as you said, and also that we are going to uncover today, is companies will always wish to have everything very structured, in a very structured way, to know where people are, who they belong, who is the owner, who is that, and where it comes from and where it goes. And definitely they don't see it as a complex adaptive systems to have improving their results. So everything is pretty much more input output, and then the flow is quite low. Trying to uncover better ways of doing and thinking, that's something that sometimes doesn't. It seems it's important for the companies, but they don't really care about that. They are more important to implement agile projects, which is quite the wrong, I would say, wrong approach. While improving the business outcomes, it should be the right approach. If it is agile or not, that it depends. For that, I also recommend the book Age of Agile from Steve Denning, or Radical Management, where it has a couple of steps about innovation. So because of that, also, Soraia, what do you think, what will be the impact you see in organizations that are trying to have Agile as a, and as Fabiola said, as a new movement? So instead of Taylor, where people think and others execute, and now is more about how can we get the relationship between all of us and everybody become a value creator? How to move from that old way of thinking that is, and also Fabiola emphasized that everybody's teaching that, even the best business schools in the world, they are teaching that over the last, even till today. So how to move from that old way of thinking to the way that Anna was trying to approach right now, that she's trying to unveil also at IKEA. So what are the impact for people?
Yeah, we're talking about the impact. The impact is huge. Organizations are definitely becoming more adaptive and responsive in the face of constant change while they are trying to do this. And for sure, this approach is embracing people's creativity, their curiosity, collaboration, and engagement. So it comes back to the basics on how to unleash their own power, the individual power. So if I can say the impact in an individual level, we are looking at an increase in employee satisfaction, higher motivation, and also an increase on their well-being, since we can help people in finding their own purpose, their passion for what they do, for what they can do. It seems pretty obvious, but happy people can do a better job, right? So on a team level, we are talking about greater collaboration, communication, engagement, since people come together to participate in common goals. And also on an organizational level, we are facing positive organizational climate and culture. So Agile can give the organization that structure, in the sense of an underlying mindset that brings this dimension of psychological safety to people that is really needed. So I think that's the basic impact.
Great. Also, would like to remember our audience, if you want to do questions, please use the button at the bottom of your page where you have Q&A, and we will come up to that shortly. Thank you, Soraia. Vânia, so what are the main benefits of Agile in HR? So right now at Bosch, and how does that support your daily work? How you see that?
Mm-hmm. So it's funny because I learned something new in a recent training with Fabiola. It was a concept that I already knew existed. I just didn't know how to name it, and it's the talent summarization. So basically, associates they see the jobs as consumers see goods. And I think this is a very, very good input for us as HR, because in the past, I think HR was in a comfortable place, right? Where we had our practices, we had our policies, our way of doing things, and these things were not questioned that often. But now, when we look at the way that talents look at work and the way they question things because they want more transparency, they want to know why things are done the way they are done, what is the benefit for them and for the company. So they are putting everything into question and also into perspective, and they are making us as HR really evaluate what is the outcome, what is the benefit of our policies and our procedures. Should we really be so focused on the processes, or should we be more focused on customer orientation and satisfaction, right? So delivering to our customers what they really need, and adapting, so reflect and adapting everything we do to their needs and to the necessities of the business. So I think for us in general in HR, the main benefit of Agile is really to be able to think about what we do and rethink about new ways of doing it, ways that really add value for ourselves and for our customer. And I think for us individually, Agile also is putting into perspective, okay, we really need to walk the talk, you know. So when we say to people, to our associates, to potential candidates and talents, when we say, okay, you have to be focused on your product, you have to be able to prioritize, you have to be able to say no to certain things, you have to be able to create space that you can think about creative things and not be so focused on processes, and really take out the best, the potential in yourself. When we say this to our people, sometimes we as HR, we tend to forget that, and we tend to not walk the talk. So I think for us, it's really a learning process, or for me at least, it has been, on how to practice what I preach.
Brilliant, Vânia, brilliant. And with that wise words and the inspirational words, I would like also to bring a little bit, but feel free, all of you, to join, because Soraia, what happens if people doing that journey, transparency, questioning, saying, no, we want to be value creators, we don't want to be just operating people, we don't want to be run by performance reviews, we don't want to be run by matrix and comparisons and comparisons between A and B and C and benchmarks between companies. What happens if instead of what Vânia is describing, you get exactly the opposite, and people, even with that, they call it agile? What would be the pitfall? What would be the challenges for those people? What can you foresee for that?
Well, for sure, Vânia mentioned this crucial aspect of consonance or coherence between the principles and the practices. And that's really fundamental, because if we don't see that, we lose trust and we lose some dimensions of psychological safety. So people disengage, people won't be motivated, they won't feel able to give their fully potential, right? And I would like to say that in terms of challenges and pitfalls in this Agile HR journey, sometimes on a journey, it's hard to know where we are going, right? So what's in front of us without all the answers that we need sometimes, it's really a learning process, like Vânia was saying. It's kind of like having your first child. You don't know what's ahead. So you have to be really aware that this can be a journey with some frustration associated, since we can have some setbacks and uncertainty, that's for sure. Also, in every transition or change, we are not changing everything at a time. We are actually changing one person at a time. And this implies a great deal of communication. So a challenge can be to make sure people are willing to share their stories and are willing to be open. So communication is really a key in this process. And also, sometimes we have the tendency to look for successful models in HR that use this approach. But I want to remind us that this is not a one-size-fits-all model. So it has to be tailored by people and through cycles of experimenting and adjusting. I'm sure that Fabiola and everything, that they agree, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And as you're saying, Agile, at the end of the day, is a mindset, and out of that mindset grew a set of practices and operating models. But you often get two groups of people. So the one group who says, hey, it's all about the practices. If I have a couple of sticky notes on the wall, and if I do Scrum, and if I do daily stand-ups, then I'm Agile. Well, not quite. They're missing the part that you mentioned of aligning the principles, the values with what you're doing and understanding the intent. Why am I doing that? And then sometimes you have the other group who says, hey, Agile is the mindset. If I put my mind to it, then I'm just going to be Agile. But the problem is that the devil is really in the detail when it comes to agility, because we have been used to doing things in a certain way so that we know exactly if problem A comes up, we'll do B. But now with Agile, B is no longer the right solution. We have to come up with a better solution, a solution that fits with those values and principles. And that's hard. And you see back here, the other side, back here and up on the logo, you see the DNA strand. That's what it's about. It's about changing the DNA of your organization. And as Vânia said earlier, it's also about changing the DNA of HR. And that does not happen overnight. It's going to be hard work. I totally agree. We need to bring those two together. We need to understand the intent and then see how can we leverage those values.
Also remember that Scrum is not agile, is a way to get there to exploit. And be careful, because a lot of people are doing Scrum, and in fact, it's more dark Scrum, which is also helpful because it will tell you about the dependencies of your company and why it's not moving forward as you expected. The thing is, Scrum is for complex domains, and not as much for perhaps most of the domains where a company is right now or in what they do for their business. So, and saying that, thank you, Fabiola, because that was a great insight. But Vânia, Anna, what are the initiatives that you are currently working on? If you can share with us a little bit what is going on at Bosch, Aveiro, and what is going on at the IKEA or IKEA group. So if there is something that we can know that are you really doing, and perhaps some of people at the audience would say, I would love to join your team. So let's know what you have for us.
Sure. So I can share some of the initiatives that we are working on. One of them is to shift from a way of doing, for example, targeting, defining targets and doing appraisals, which was very individual based. So the manager would define the targets for the associates in his or her team, and then would do the evaluation, so the performance evaluation at the end of the year. And this no longer works for our reality. So what we are doing is to define targets on a team-based setting with OKRs, for example, and to shift the focus from individual appraisals to collective feedback, so that I as an individual am in charge of my own development. So I should be the one driving the conversation, where I want to get feedback from not just from my manager, but from my peers, from my customers, from everyone that I work with. So that's one of the initiatives we are running. On the recruitment side, for example, we are also experimenting a lot with shared staffing. So we are including people from the team on the interviews and the recruitment process, so that the cultural part is really important for people to really make sure, okay, I'm hiring the right person with the right mindset for my team, and not just the typical hard skills. I think other initiatives we're working on is definitely the empowerment for self-development. So whether it's with training, so giving more direct access to training platforms, online training platforms, for example, not being the manager deciding which training each person is going to do, but associates themselves saying, okay, I want to do this, and I want to propose a training, for example, for the whole team. So these are some things that we are working on. Also, one very important aspect is to redefine and recommunicate our career path models, because they are also changing a lot, and really promoting the bilateral moves, you know, so we are no longer putting the emphasis on this hierarchical climb, let's say. We think it's much more important for people to experiment other things, and these experimentations, they could be in a form of job rotations, or just going to a different team or going to a different position in a bilateral move. So these are some of the initiatives we are running with our teams. And for us in HR especially, I think one part that we are really trying to change is to have this customer centricity. So we used to be very perfectionists in the way that, okay, if we want to present something, we are going to work very hard on that, and we are just going to present it at the end with a very nice presentation with everything thought out. But that would take much time. So there it comes the feeling of, okay, they are not agile at all, at least they're not as fast as we need them to be. So now we are having an approach in which we involve much more our stakeholders in all the decisions that we need to take, with workshops, with meetings, so that they have an input in the final solution that we are presenting. These are just some examples of what we are doing in practice.
Thank you. Anna, what can you share with us?
As I was saying before, I have the lucky to work in an organization at IKEA where we have a quite informal environment where everyone is feel free and it's really willing to give their input on the different topics. So if they feel they have an idea, they just go to the manager, to the peer, to even to the store manager directly to just share it and to test and try. So we have really an environment where we test, we learn with a mistake, and we try to do it differently next time if it didn't work. So it really supports us on a daily basis to have this sharing between departments, sharing between different backgrounds of people. It really fosters us to have quick decisions, and normally it goes really well because we have different backgrounds, so we have quite a big group of people giving different inputs that will give us the perspective of a global perspective of the topic. So it's really good to work in an environment like this. And as Vânia was also saying, the people really takes the lead on their own development. So it's quite easy to have a coworker saying that I would propose my goals to be these ones that are connected to the business purpose that reflects here and there. So it's really quite a mixed approach between what the manager feels is the best to the business, but also what the coworker feels is the best for him for the next steps that he wants to give and to develop themselves. And so since we have this culture already in place, we are now looking more to, and specifically in HR, since we are a quite bureaucratic area, how can we move forward with different topics and still having bureaucracy, because we will never lose it, but how can we make it simple for all our coworkers, for the coworker, for the manager, and for our teams in people and culture. So we are really having these small project groups, and we are trying to see what are the ceremonies from Agile that really fits to the different teams, and it can be really different even inside people and culture. For example, we have a quite administrative area that is taking care of payroll, and for them it makes sense to meet in a daily basis. But for the teams that are working with the planning, the schedule planning, it's not worth it. So we are really trying to adapt to what it fits best for each team, and then to really split the different problems that we have in front of us and to take one by one or two or three at the same time, but really prioritize, have a good way to prioritize, a structured way that we can have using different methodologies, and to really start seeing small things happen. And this will give also the co-workers and our teams the vision that it's being done something. We don't need to wait for the end of the project to deliver a quite big result. So we are really delivering incremental steps to make the journey in a smoother way, So we are really taking the benefits of the quick wins, and we are trying to build this methodology and this mindset in the full company, not only in HR. And I think it's worth to do it and to test it.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for your sharing. Saying that, I would like to reinforce that if you have questions for the audience, I think we already have one or two, one from João Henriques and another one from Inês Sampaio Maia. But we'll come back to you shortly, because before we go there, Fabiola, what I know it's a complex question, perhaps, or at least complicated, but if you go to an HR department of a company that wants to move from the 20th century to the 21st century of management, what would be the first advice you would say, or what would be the first step to become to have a more flexible, adaptable in the 21st century agile for the whole company? What would you share with that people to start?
The first step is always to understand what you're in for. You know, if you have been playing golf your whole life and you want to become a hockey player, well, you have to learn about hockey. And that's what you have to do with Agile as well. You have to truly understand what you're doing and then define what's the intent. What am I planning to do? Why am I going down that journey? And, you know, one of the most challenging questions that you can ask is why? Why do you want to be Agile? And, you know, it sounds like a silly question. Yeah, because we need to be more nimble, but why? What is your intent? Why do you want to go down that path? And, you know, we've had companies say, well, we just have to do Agile because everyone is doing Agile. Well, that's not a good enough reason, because Agile is hard. It's a transformation. So you really have to know why you're doing that and what you're in for. And with that question, what we always get is also that people are, you know, excited about Agile. They want to do some stuff. They want to change the company. They have big plans for the company, but then they are kind of like, where the heck do I start? You know, my boss is not going to buy in, or my corporate HR is not going to buy into a new performance acceleration program or a talent enablement program. And what am I doing? And it goes back to that picture of change. I'm sure you've all seen that. So it's first a huge group of people and someone asks, who wants change? All the hands go up. Everyone wants change. Everyone wants something different. But then when you ask who wants to change, everyone is just looking around. So we are creatures of habit. We like things to be the way that we know they are. So, and if you feel that you're sort of trapped, that you're excited about Agile, you want to do something, but you feel that your company's not ready yet, look at the smaller stuff, because change happens in small increments. You do not change the company or transform the company just by pulling a switch. But we're looking for that switch, but that's not the reality. Look for the small changes. Look for the things that you can do with your own team, or with a couple of colleagues, like-minded people. And like Vânia was saying earlier, hey, we're changing the language in job ads. We are including people in the recruiting process. All of that is change into the right direction. And you can be a bit pushy about it. You can be brave, but figure out what keeps you up at night, what keeps your boss up at night, and then figure out, if I could, what would I do? And then ask yourself, okay, what can we really do? And there is usually a lot of stuff that you can already do, even if you feel that the whole organization is not ready for that step yet.
Great, Fabiola. And this is a great thing to ask, because when we go to companies, we say, what is your company purpose is one thing, but what are you optimizing your company for? And it's quite hard because they have so many bullet points at the end, we don't have a focus. So for example, in the Portuguese militaries, it's quite easy. What is the goal? What is the focus? To protect the Portugal territory and the Portuguese citizens from internal or external forces. So it can be climatic changes, can be terrorism. So what we are doing, protecting the territory and the Portuguese citizens. That's it. If anything you bring to us, it has to do with that, we are good. If it's something that is not on that scope, well, it might be important, but not now. So we're not saying no, we are saying not now, not today. So in companies, when we say, what are you optimized for the slowest, for the fastest lead time, for the best customer service? What is your optimization for? And people have 10, 15 bullet points because everything matters, but that does give them the perspective. People lose perspective. So that's great, Fabiola. That's a great things to share. Let's take one of our questions here. So it's from João Henriques to the panelists, where he says, the processes you are referring to are in general innovative processes in the HR area. However, how is the mindset different in the approach of these processes? So who wants to start? Please feel free. Or Fabiola, you want to?
Yeah, I don't mind going first. So, yes, we are doing innovative processes, but you can do innovative processes with a different mindset as well. And if we go back to the example that I mentioned earlier, that still a lot of organizations think about themselves like a well-oiled machine. So when you have like your job descriptions and all of that stuff, it's set up in a way that you say, if every single part of the organization, that means every job, every person, does exactly what we planned for them to do, then the company as a whole is going to be successful. But here is the problem. That model works well if you have a clearly defined job model and you know what everyone is going to be doing, and they're going to be doing that for the next couple of years. But if you work in a highly disruptive, fast-paced organization or environment that requires people to collaborate, to be creative and innovative, that no longer works because you do not know what your world is going to look like tomorrow. How are you supposed to set up your job descriptions and your competency models and your performance management approach if you don't have that high certainty? And that's at the root of it, that you understand, are we a well-oiled machine or are we an adaptive complex systems that gives more empowerment to people, that needs collaboration, that people with different backgrounds, different ideas, different experiences come together and create something new. And that's the kind of mindset that we're talking about. And if you want to dig in deeper into that, one of the tools that we love to use is the iceberg model from systems thinking, because it gets you into that. If you say people are not collaborating, or we are not producing fast enough, or we are not creative enough, dig in deeper to really find out what is your underlying beliefs. And that's the challenging thing about that mindset, is it's not obvious. Sometimes we are not aware of our beliefs. And a lot of those more traditional or established mindsets are something that is hiding behind well-established practices. To give you an example, pay for performance and meritocracy is actually bad for diversity and inclusion. But in order to understand that, we need to understand the mental models behind it, and that's what we want to tap into.
Anyone wants to add something more? Anna?
Maybe to complement, it's really the way, maybe it's not something really big that we are changing, and there is the tendency to think that when we are trying to implement these methodologies, that we are looking for a big change in the organization. And maybe it's just we as a managers in this case, the way we approach our team, the way we can read the stage that each coworker is, and how can we support them in this movement. So for example, we are in a quite bureaucratic area where it's quite easy to have the tendency to detail everything, every step that we need to take to perform a task. And we leave no space for the coworker to think on, if something happens in a different way, how can we do it autonomously, to solve this issue. So what we aim to give is them the tools they need to be able to quickly adapt and to quickly find the answer to the issue that they have in front without losing the goal that they have in front of them. So if they need to deliver the payroll done and closed, if something is not working, if a system has an error, how can they do it quickly without needing to go from 1 to 2, 3, and so maybe they can go from 1 to 3 doing it differently. So they really have the tools to do it by themselves, or are we closing so much the processes that they have no space to think? And this is what we aim to give to these teams, the tools enough that they can lead the process in an autonomous way as a team, and to close the process and feel confident that they were able to do. They were trust enough to try to make a mistake, but then to change it and to solve the issue. And I think this is essential to create this this mindset.
Thank you, Anna. There is also another question here from Ines Sampaio, and perhaps here it can also be a helpful, Soraia. So the question is an agile performance appraisal, how can we link with an annual bonus? So if we consider Daniel Pink research, I think, and even when you teach, and I know you work with people about high performance teams, is this question of the bonus is a good thing, or perhaps it's a counterproductive thing to have to make a high performance teams, or even to build a team? What is your opinion on this?
Well, it's not a simple answer, but I believe that the bonus and compensation benefits are not exactly maybe the best way to motivate people. And in high team performances, we can see that high performance teams, we can see that some aspects of team collaboration and seeing some results, seeing the goals that are achieved by the team are maybe the most important thing in terms of relationship inside the team and with the leadership as well. I don't know if Fabiola wants to add anything about the bonuses.
Yes, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I mean, the question has two parts to it. One is, how do we do it mechanically? You know, we have this agile team and we have corporate guidelines on how we calculate bonuses. How do we do that? And that's fairly simple. You know, with a lot of transformations, what do, you go in with target bonuses, you pay out target bonuses, that's it. Or you find suitable measures to still satisfy the needs from corporate HR. But if you get a chance, really take a step back and ask the question that Soraia was asking, are bonuses still the right thing to do in a complex adaptive system, in the kind of organizations that we are building for the future? And it goes back to that thinking around what is the organization? Well-oiled machine, no problem. You do A, you get B. But if we have to collaborate, if we have to be creative, we have to assess and understand team dynamics, then it's a different story. And to cut a long story short, bonuses don't work. So there are two parts of this question that you have to ask. And if you go down that path of Agile, you have to ask that question of, are bonuses still the way forward?
One of the things that we see, one of the things we see in companies is when we are trying to think in an agile perspective and what will be for the business, because we want agile for the business outcomes to improve exponentially, according to the book of Incremental to Exponential from the professor Vivek Vadva. But the thing is, a couple of things: think fast, think slow. So we also need to take care with also a nice book from Daniel Kahneman. But the thing is, basically, is HR compensations or bonus supporting teams, groups, or individuals? Three different things. And if they support more individuals and groups, it will be hard to ask people to be collaborating, cross-functional, learning new skills from each others, and improve by learning on a daily basis. So that's a great question, Ines. Thank you so much for your question. Also, I have another thing here that is also with the topic of of our webinar today. So, Fabiola, what is the future of HR? Where it goes for?
So it's going to be very interesting. So it's never been this exciting and this challenging to be in HR. And what we see is if we stay with the same things that we've always done, if we, just tweak it a bit, but not really challenge ourselves to change our HR approach, we're going to become irrelevant in any agile organization. There's no question about it. Even though an agile organization needs a solid people and HR approach more than ever. Because if we do not fix the people side, the HR side, we're not going to be a fully agile organization. So HR is really the secret to business agility, but it's not the type of HR that we've done in the past. So if we are being progressive and if we are being brave to challenge the status quo, and really, as my colleagues here said, experiment and learn and adapt and get it wrong and course correct, then we have a really bright future ahead of us. But it's going to take courage to get there for sure.
Maybe I can also comment on that. I think it's really interesting to see that whenever HR is not supporting in the right way, even though the teams need HR and need this support, if they feel like HR is not doing it, they will do it themselves. They will find a way. So it's really interesting what you were saying, Fabiola, that we might become irrelevant if we don't adapt to that, because people will find another way to really on their own be able to find the support they need. And I think for HR, it's really interesting because we are in that point where we see like the two sides of the spectrum. On one hand, you have the digitalization and you have the technology that is helping us so much to improve data and automate a lot of bureaucratic processes that we have. And in the future with AI, I think we still have a very, very big room for improvement in the HR area to be able to predict needs, to predict what people want or why people are leaving or what is attractive for people in other companies that we don't have. So I think we have a big, big room to develop on that. But on the other side, we are so full of technology, but at the same time, people want and need human support and human contact. And I see this a lot now with the pandemic. I think people are now more than ever really valuing what it means to have this physical and human contact. So I think the human part of HR will never disappear if we are doing it in the right way. And of course, it's hard to know what is the right way. This is something that we need to discover. But what I see for now as a trend and something that we need to implement even more in the future is to have HR as a coaching and mentoring and counseling position instead of like the policy of the processes, which is there to check if everything is in order. And that is a big, big transformation for us, because our way of working and being is very formatted for those processes. And especially in big companies, such as the one that I'm working in, for example, it's necessary to have some processes and some standardization, of course, but how do we get the perfect balance between those processes and really adding this value and being counselors and supportive and able to bring out the best of our people potential? I think that is the question that we as HR need to be concerned and need to work on for the future.
I can also add something that, for example, we in the Agile Thinkers consulting work that we do, we are looking into organizations to see how can we see, for example, self-organizing teams instead of just looking at a group of people in the room and call them teams, right? So it's like a matter of peeling the several layers like an onion. So peeling the layers deeper and deeper to understand how do people work together, how can they organize themselves in a self-organizing team. So we really have to be willing to challenge our own thinking about what is HR and reinvent the principles and practices for people.
Anna, would you like to add anything to this Agile HR in your world?
My colleagues already said the majority of the things, but it's really important for us to think on the mentality that we really want to move from. So we are no longer in HR focus on standards, policies, and controls. We are really moving to how we can foster the organization to have flexibility, adaptability, and innovation. So how can we be the department that is supporting this change? And as Vânia was saying, without losing the personal side of it. So we are there. How can we find this balance between the demandings that we have from our coworkers and our employees that they demand more and more, and it's what we can see in all the population. How can they be and demanding in terms of they want to feel motivated, they want to feel recognized. So how can we find a balance between both these both perspectives, and how can we give them the tools to get there? And it's not an easy answer.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. If some of you know what is the Rossi model, so responsible, accountable, consulting, and informed, that comes from governance frameworks, something like that, or ISO 38500. I see a Rossi. Instead of a Rossi, I see a Rossi, where between responsible, accountable, and now I see a S. The S, it's for supportive. And here is where I also see the human factors and the human resources people. So instead of just rebranded the labels from human resources to resources human and talent people and people talent and whatever, it's more about being supportive and more about how can we make today managers and today leaders in coaches of the organization to foster the balance. And I think that's the beauty of the agile world. Agile world for me, it's the beauty between what we need to keep doing, which is the operational things, that because we need to have some sustainability, but we also need to invest as the same amount of effort, and that balance, I call it agile also as that beauty word, which is foster innovation, which is the survivability of the company. And companies will survive if they invest strongly in different perspectives. Different perspectives bring innovation and being inclusion of different ways of thinking other things. So we really want to believe this webinar help you, everyone that attended the webinar, for a better and clear picture about what agile in HR means. You can have more of this soon. So we have the conference by from the 25th to the 29th. Agile Human Factors have a dedicated day, which will be by the 27th. Also with your ticket, you can get the Certified Agile HR Practitioner with Fabiola, and also with our special guests, Vânia, Anna, and Soraia for sure. And also perhaps we can talk to Vânia, Anna, and Soraia, Fabiola, if you can travel from New York City. It will be amazing to have you in Lisbon by the end of September. I hope everybody can join. So also recall that it's also a very important thing that our next webinar to be on June 1st. So we talk about marketing, but digital marketing, digital space in the digital age. It's quite different. So you come from a very clear or complicated domain to a much more complex domain. So Maria Mattarelli and Mark Lombardi will talk about that in our webinar in June the 1st. Also from Silicon Valley, Professor Annika Steinberg will bring you the Silicon Valley model, and she will talk about 8 models for how to access new technical knowledge and innovation. So Menlo College is also a partner of our conference, and we also have several master classes with Steve Denning, Annika Steinberg, Kurt Carlson, among several others. So once again, I would like to appreciate your participation today. For sure, this is just the first of several webinars we can do. Thank you so much, ladies. It was a pleasure to have you here. So with that, I would like to say goodbye and thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.